A massive terror attack in one of our allied countries right in the middle of a presidential election. It brings out the public statements from each candidate's camp of what they would do as commander-in-chief. What better way to articulate to the voting public your reaction to a national tragedy or an international crisis which could require a U.S. response? Well, take a listen to the array of remarks from the 5 people running for president today.
Well, we have to toughen our surveillance, our interception of communication.
I'm a little surprised that the president is going to a baseball game.
We are fighting a terrorist organization, a barbaric organization that is killing innocent people. We are not fighting a religion.
I would close up our borders to people until we figure out what is going on. Look at Brussels. Look at Paris.
And we need to immediately halt the president's ill-advised plan to bring in tens of thousands of Syrian Muslim refugees.
My guest today has acted as the governor of New Mexico, a presidential candidate in 2012, and is now pushing to lead the Libertarian Party as a presidential candidate for 2016, which means, you can guess, not much airtime on mainstream media. So Governor Gary Johnson joined me earlier to weigh in on what he would do in just such a situation if elected president in November. Take a listen.
Well, I would come out and say, look, we're never going to be able to defend against somebody who's willing to blow themselves up to make a statement. It's just not going to happen, and we need to recognize that. But we need to try and contain this kind of thing in the Middle East, and we need to cut off funding to these groups which ultimately make this possible. And we can do that. We can do this with our brains. This is a cyber war, if you will. I think that there is a very real Islamic terrorist threat. It's very real. But is it best addressed with our military interventions, with dropping bombs, with flying drones and killing thousands of innocent civilians? I think our military interventions are making things worse, not better. Not the cause of Islamic extremism, but, like I say, making things worse, not better. So really, it's about cutting off funding to these terrorist groups. And something that I really enjoyed being governor was being able to get the people that are involved in this, that know the most. And I am talking about now policy people, administrative people that are in fact waging the war on terror, finding out where we're at, what we've done, what we need to do, and perhaps tweaking that, because it's certainly not going to be something you'd turn on its head. Because these people have been involved.
Even if it comes to turning away from someone who has kind of been an ally, such as, Turkey, you talk about cutting off funding to groups like ISIS. What about when it comes to making a decision where there is a use of force, taking on, high-ranking military personnel's information, what they have on the ground, being unfriendly to a country like Turkey, coming out and saying it? It's a lot of what we haven't heard from Obama. What do you think about, making those big, tough statements?
Well, I don't have an issue making those big, tough statements. Like I say, I would just differ with regard to boots on the ground. Contain what's happening in the Middle East. That doesn't mean Europe. That means the Middle East. But contain what's happening. Cut off the funding to these terrorist groups, much as Saudi Arabia and the Emirates have done. This should be the strategy. Our military interventions are making things worse. What sounds like, gee, we're going in and we're addressing a horrible situation, for the most part, at best, we make a horrible situation the same, but oftentimes we make a horrible situation even worse.
How would your approach be different from the other candidates that are running right now?
Well, right now they're showing their cards. I think I play a pretty good game of chess, and you certainly don't telegraph what it is that you're going to do ahead of time. So I wouldn't be telegraphing what I would be doing ahead of time, other than to state that military interventions need to be really stopped, and don't mistake that for, hey, if attacked, we're going to attack back. But going in, militarily intervening in horrible situations, making them, like I say, at best the same, at worst, worse.
Okay, well, let me read to you some of the reactions from some of the other candidates. Trump is saying, see, I was right. This is in regard to Brussels today. We should close the borders. Cruz is saying step up law enforcement capabilities in Muslim neighborhoods. Kasich is saying, Obama, what are you doing in Cuba? Get home, deal with this crisis from here. Sanders saying stand by our European allies. And Clinton is talking about upping surveillance. What are your thoughts on all? This is a smorgasbord of reactions.
It's a smorgasbord of reactions that somehow is saying, is paying lip service to a situation that are we ever going to be able to address a situation where a person is willing to give up their life, meaning detonate themselves with a bomb in a crowded area. I don't know as we're ever going to be able to defend against that.
So when people hear you talk about leading the country and they see something like this and they're scared, what makes them feel confident that you can face this problem, maybe make them feel safe? Or is it a tough love thing, like, hey, listen, you're never going to be safe from someone who wants to strap a bomb to themselves?
Well, let's recognize the reality when it comes to strapping a bomb to yourself. But look, we can address this by cutting off funding. We can address this with our brains. We don't have to address this with endless war, bombs, and killing of what ends up to be a lot of innocent people that make, like I say, the whole situation worse, not better.
What do you think about our president being in Cuba right now? While this is happening, not getting on a plane to come home. Do you feel strongly about that or no? Because Kasich clearly does.
I mean, come on. Give him a break. Does he care about what's happening over in Europe? Of course he does. Of course he does, and he's more in tune, or he's as in tune with what it is that we're doing and the strategies that we have. I disagree with the strategies that we have, that he has been a military president, that he has intervened, that at the end of the day, and he's not different than Republicans, but at the end of the day, ends up making things worse, not better.
All right. Governor Gary Johnson, thank you very much.
Lindsay, thank you very much.
Now, before we go, we've got 3 primaries today: Idaho, Utah, and Arizona. We don't have much to go on regarding returns yet. After all, they are Western states. But we do have the latest polls to show who's favored going into it. Now, in Arizona, GOP primary there, Trump leads by 13 points. Now, for the Democrats, Clinton leads them by 26. And over to Utah's caucuses, Cruz leads the Republicans by 24 points, and then Sanders is out front of the Democrats by 8. And last but not least, Idaho. Surprisingly, there's not much polling data to go on for Idaho, for Republicans or Democrats, but for Democrat support, it does point to lead more toward Bernie Sanders. Anyway, we'll be bringing you those returns, hopefully later tonight as they come in, but definitely tomorrow. That's all in the Fish Tank today. If you've got something you'd like to hear us talk about in the Fish Tank, hit me up via Twitter at Lindsay France. We'll be right back after this.